Broadcasting. We're on
I,
air.
I got those. I got the going live jitterbugs.
Hang on.
Oh, there it is.
Oh,
I'm
hey.
live.
Yeah, we're live, dude.
Okay, me too.
Nice.
Live on my end.
Welcome to the Religion and Tech Theater Hangout. How about we go around and Tika's listening. How about we go around and tell everyone a little bit about yourself. I'll start off. My name is Samantha, or Prop It Like It Hot, and I am a Catholic prop person, currently a student at the University of Southern California, and I will be moderating for y'all today.
Next.
Next.
I guess I'll go.
I'll go. I'm Julia.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let's go. I'm Julia. I'm also known as Hobie Ho. Here we go. I am an adult who works in theater and also from home doing boring adult jobs. Pretty cool, I guess. I do stage management and props, and I act a little bit.
I didn't know that.
That's cool. That's cool.
Go
I
next.
guess for me, I guess I'm a student wanting to get in like writing, and I've been doing a bit of stagehand too, and even though I'm not like in that direction, I've also done a lot of carpentry at school too. So that's kind of what most of what I've been doing at school. But and then whenever I can, just kind of doing whatever odd jobs, the freelance odd jobs, whenever I can get those. So yeah, and I'm Philip. I said my name right. I'm Philip, and on Tumblr I'm Rocondo.
That's how you say it.
Yeah, it's the Elvish for my name. So yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh, nice.
All right, Jared.
Oh, me. My name's Jared Barger. I'm on Tumblr. My education blog is the SPL, which stands for Sound Pressure Level, but it's also kind of a joke. It's Sound Professor at Large. And my regular non-educational theater blog, which is just music, engineering, and mod culture. It's the Madman Mod. I'm an audio and acoustics engineer. I'm a technical director with Arizona State University Gamage at the CARE Studio, or CARE Cultural Center. We're going through a rebranding. I also teach audio production at Phoenix College. I teach the live sound audio production class. And I, up until recently, was a freelance live sound and live session recording engineer. And I've been a union engineer and both a freelance engineer as well. And I got my degree in theater production. I have a second degree in audio engineering, and we'll be finishing a third degree in theater and directing if all goes well this next year. So instead of the smart guy and doing a master's degree, I'm getting like 2 associates and a bachelor's.
The jack of all trades.
Oh, and for the purpose of this conversation, I am a supervisor, and I'm also an educator, and I'm also a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist. So that's my input.
All right. So we've got 3 Christians and a Buddhist here today. I wanted to say I have not heard from Rowena on Broadway yet. That would be Ilana. So she might hop on later, and then if you're watching, hi. Sorry you're not feeling so well. Feel free to ask questions during the conversation and get some rest. We're taking questions. You can send them to my inbox, or you can write them in the little chat thing over on the side here. Throughout, I've got a few to start us off. Shall we get started?
Yeah. Also, we should probably mention that if you are on the TechBlur Discord server, you can also send us questions on there too, under the
Google Hangouts.
The Google Hangouts tab. There it is. I have it open now.
You wanna? Okay, thank you.
Go for it.
Yay. I should probably say that it's going now. I'll send the link. Okay. So our first question, working on holy days, how do you handle that? Personally, I go to a university that is very good about handling holy days, but I have, I've told stage managers and bosses before, hey, I need to like head out for an hour because they're not on the academic calendar. Just wanted to hear some feedback about that. I'm doing two things at once. Sorry.
Well, as a supervisor, I've always told my technicians that because we use a scheduling software at our venue. It's called When to Work, and it's a online virtual scheduling software you can get on your phone or on anything with a web browser, and they can put their conflicts in ahead of time. And I tell all my technicians that if you're going to have an issue with that, put it in there, and that way I can start planning around it. I try to be as flexible as possible, but it is also seniority based, so those with more seniority get more flexibility than others. That being said, we adhere to the federal holidays, so sometimes we do have an event on, say, Christmas or Ramadan or something like that, and we'll try to work around that to make all sorts of accommodations. Doesn't always work, but I try to let my technicians know that we are trying the best we can, and the earlier they notify me, the better. And most of the time, I will even come in and fill in because a lot of my holidays don't fall on the same holidays as theirs. And thankfully, my wife's atheist, so I don't have to worry about conflicts there too much. So that's what we try to do.
What I tend to do is I just go to mass like at the weirdest times. I look them up and it'd be like 7 a.m. Sunday morning during tech because that's the only time I have, because I try not the tech schedule. I have no problem working on holy days personally. Sundays, it's fine. For me, I give God what is due. If that makes sense. I don't know, Philip, we've talked about this before.
Yeah. I got that kind of the same thing. It's like working on Sundays, like the live events stuff is basically you're providing a space for other people to have a time to relax. So that's how I kind of, when I do it on Sundays and stuff like that. I did, like last year, I worked through. I accidentally scheduled myself to work on Easter weekend, so that was kind of weird. But I did manage to get to mass during the convention. So
Yeah, I've done that twice now.
yeah. Fortunately, this year's convention was on the Easter weekend, but next year it'll be interesting. So.
And there are some, like I've worked with tours and stuff, where they actually have, for lack of a better term, they have a chaplain that tours with them.
Yeah.
On some, like the larger festival tours.
Really?
Yeah. Vans Warped Tour was one that did it for a while. I know that a lot of the, ironically, a lot of those, they're skeevy, and I've got some issues with them, but the Renaissance fairs, a lot of them have actual groups. Like I know that the one in, I think it's Arizona, has a group of Franciscans who are actually building a small little chapel out there, and they administer mass on Sunday for the employees that are out there on Sunday.
That's cool.
So that's kind of cool.
I mean, and for me,
I'm sorry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello?
Julia? Go ahead.
I think we're having some issue. Hello?
I can see you but not hear you.
lose you?
I think we might have some interference there with them. I don't know. Yeah. I think there's a problem there.
All right. Well, we can move on. I see if Julia figures out. I know she's having some connectivity problems. Let's go to Tumblr. I've got a question from Littler Duck.
I was just saying, I know something if I know that it's gonna take. Yeah, I know that it's okay to say no to something. If for some reason, like, I can't go because I have to go to Christmas service, or if I never work a Christmas carol because I know that.
You knocked me over.
Are you working, computer? No. Sorry, headphones. It's okay. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Do we lose her again?
It's not a Google Hangout without technical difficulties. Julia. Julia, we miss you.
Yeah, we've lost sound on her, I think.
Yes.
Getting nothing.
No.
I think we're losing a sound on two people.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
I should be. I don't know.
Are we all back?
People just said hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. So, are we still missing Julia's audio there?
Yeah.
Crap. Yeah.
Do you want to just roll on and see
I'm
if
here.
it's fixed? Or...
Oh, there you are.
I muted my microphone in hopes that it would cooperate. It's not.
Well, we're hearing you now, so I guess something worked.
All right. Hearing you.
She's
I'm here.
going to disconnect and come back.
I can see you. I don't know if you guys can hear us.
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. I mean, you're hanging in there.
Yeah.
The answer is
I'm
yes.
not sure if it's. I'm not sure if it's the voices like. I see the video and then the voice comes later for some reason. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's happening or what. But...
Because Julia's going to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and we'll take. We'll pop off. We'll pop her back on.
We'll take Littler Duck.
Okay.
Littler Duck. And I think maybe this is more of a question for Phil and I. How do you balance modesty issues? For instance, I grew up in a moderately Catholic household and learned a lot of discomfort around nudity, full and partial, which there's a fair amount in theater. I'm working to be better, but what are your guys' thoughts on modesty in theater? All right. I'm a costumer. I guess that's something that I've just started in college and couldn't stop because it's really the only way I can work backstage consistently. So I've done head dresser for Romeo and Juliet, and I've done it for unrelated. I've done it for damn it, I can't remember what the show was. I don't know. I've kind of just gotten used to like averting my eyes when necessary, and just giving people like respectful space and understanding that it's for show and not for any other purpose. I don't know.
It's kind
Phil,
of
do you have anything
weird.
to add?
It was kind of weird because, like, last couple semesters ago, we did Noises Off, and basically, there's the part where one of the characters, she gets down to her underwear, basically, and at one point, I wasn't like the main tech to worry about this, but at one point, I had to sub for someone that she gets past the window, and I had to be on the other side of the window, keeping an eye on the pad, and so she was like right there. So that was really like uncomfortable for me. But otherwise, I haven't really had much chance, like really. I wouldn't say chance, but occasion to have to worry about that yet. I'll probably after school, I'll probably have that more. Next semester, no, spring semester, we'll be doing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So apparently, I haven't really read the script yet. I'm not familiar with the show. So apparently, there's something that gets close to that. So I'll see how that'll go. So.
Well, I know that we address it at university level, on professional level, is just frankly communication.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if there is a concern from you or from another person, it really comes down to, in a secular approach, is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. If you have a concern, voice it. If it's a good company or a good organization, they will make accommodations. And that's what you really need to do. Is you can't make accommodations unless you know they exist. And once you mention, hey, I have an issue with this, can we work together to solve this? Ironically, you'll find that a solution is easy to come across, but you just need to mention it. And if you're not comfortable mentioning it to the director, there's usually, with most universities or most professional production companies, there's an HR department who is there just for that. That is what they do. It's okay.
I think our customers did have a decent amount of conversation with the actress, talking about how comfortable she was going to be and what coverage she wanted with what she was going to be wearing or not wearing. So.
And it's not just I've worked out with actors who and performers who were concerned about nudity and such, not from a religious standpoint, but just from a body consciousness standpoint. We had a show we were working with an actor who was an Iraq war vet, and he had quite a few scars, and he had an artificial leg. He was uncomfortable with some people seeing that. So it's not as unusual as one would originally think if you have a level of modesty within your faith. Just as long as you communicate it, you'll find that it's more common than not, and it's pretty easy to work around. You just need to communicate it. Julia?
All right. I see Julia has rejoined us. Hello. She's, I think, still figuring out her side of things.
Nope, no sound.
Trying.
I'm going to try to speak again.
And I just got a message from Alana at Rowena on Broadway. She is too busy with stuff. She has tech tomorrow, which is so completely understandable. Sorry you can't join us.
Nice.
Cool. I think Julia can hear us now. Yes?
What?
I keep hearing snippets of Julia, but
yeah,
nothing solid.
the fun of Techblur Hangouts.
The other ones seem to go smoother. It's just me.
Well, the last one I did had a whole bunch of audio engineers, so.
Yeah.
Jared, do you want to pull up?
It's probably just or my computer.
Yeah. Still not getting audio. Sorry.
What are your questions?
Okay. Sorry, what?
Pull up one of your questions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple. Let me go back to the inbox. Oh, hang on. Stupid Apple mouse sucks. All right. I got a question from the ever popular Anonymous. For the Techblur Religion Hangout, is it possible to attend Sunday worship and a theater production where so much happens on Sundays? What boundaries can you as a designer or technician ask for? Such as Sunday mornings off, etc. Well, I'll just start on my side. I do have some technicians who cannot work Sundays, which in the summer, I mean, it doesn't preclude them from working for us. No, but that does limit some of the shows that they'll be able to work on. But I try to work around that. In my crew, we actually have a variety of faiths, from atheist, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, and those who just don't rather not say, and that's cool. Again, it doesn't preclude you, but you kind of have to make that individual decision. Like for me, personally, I have not been able to go to temple for a couple of months because we have another client who insists on having shows on Sunday. And they've been going through, they have a lot of technical needs. They do live session multi-track recording during their event. And I have had to make a decision as a technical director. Do I fix these problems or do I focus on going to temple? And so I've actually had to consciously say, I'm going to have to back off on that part of my life religiously so I can make sure that this part professionally is functioning. And that's really a question you yourself can ask. Can an employer, by federal law, can an employer prohibit you from working because you can't work Sundays? No. Unless in the hiring process it is specifically outlined that you must be available X, Y, and Z days. If it's not specifically outlined, they cannot say you can't work for us, except in a right-to-work state such as Arizona, Mississippi, Alabama. No, not Alabama. It's a union state. But the right-to-work states, they can. But in every other state where there's union presence, no, they cannot say you cannot work if you can't work Sundays. You might not get as many shifts, but it shouldn't affect your job. It really comes down to a personal choice then. That's from like the supervisors.
I totally agree. It comes down to what you're personally comfortable. If it was up to me, I would a mass in the middle of the day, but I can't do that. I'm usually needed to work. Call time might be 11, mass might be at 10. But I have found from various stage managers that they will concede a little bit of, like, if you are consistent and you get your work done, a little bit more flexible. I haven't worked in a shop yet where I've been asked to work on Sundays, because I work in a school shop, and our strikes on Sundays are actually in the evenings, and so it turns out fine. But I think it definitely comes down to that balance that you can find between faith and work, what you want to put first. And your work life with that faith life. It's a challenge. It's a challenge.
I think if you can't get on Sundays, then definitely try to at least do one day a week that you can dedicate to that in lieu of that. Because I know that there's for like for like emergency people engage in emergency services like doctors and firefighters and they get an allowance of trying to if they can't get on Sundays, then they can go try to dedicate another day to the rest that they spiritual and physical rest that they need. So.
Julia?
Are you back?
Yeah, I think here I'm gonna try to talk now, and we'll see what happens.
I think there's a delay, but I can hear you.
I personally try really hard to make sure that I only accept jobs that I know with my schedule. So, like, I am in church choir, and so I want to be at Mass for 9:30 Mass, available for church choir practice if I can on Wednesday nights. And so I'll put those on my conflicts if I'm auditioning for something, or I'll put those on my conflicts if I'm being hired for something. And I'll let people know, like, I'm not available until 11 o'clock. That they don't hire me, that means they don't hire me. And I just, you know, because what's more important to you is that your family time is.
You were doing so well.
Hello?
The last sentence was cut off. The last half of the sentence was cut off.
We were doing so good.
Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Yay!
So we're still there. Okay, she's still there. Cool.
Yay! Stop.
So relieved.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Is that all you wanted to say, Julia?
No, not for that question.
Okay, we're powering through. This is awesome. Good teamwork, guys. We have 5 people watching.
You're doing a great job.
All right. Hi, 5 people. Hi.
5 people.
We lost 2.
Oh.
It's been between 5 and 8.
Well, we need the
That's
rest
okay.
of TechBlurt. Those of you watching, put it out there. Go, post it now.
Reblog it, damn it.
Blog it. We have a hashtag? We don't have a hashtag.
We need a hashtag. Yeah, we need a hashtag. Oh my god. That's
I don't know. You're fine, right?
Those things to spread the word.
Should we do another
I
question?
like this jellyfish. Your last
Oh, I'm sorry,
sentence,
go ahead.
jellyfish. I love this.
Friend!
Comment. This one is jellyfish.
What about a jellyfish? What?
That's my friend Jen. Her nickname is Jelly. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Hi, Jen.
Oh, I see.
Hi.
Yeah, see.
Wait,
is it? Okay, I see jellyfish. I see the jellyfish now. I was looking at the wrong window. Cool.
If I share it, I can't watch it.
I'm sorry?
No, if I go share it, I can't watch. It'll take a second. Come on now.
Come on. Open another window. Go on your phone. Share it. Because you do follow us, right? No.
Okay.
Cool. Should we do another one? Because I've got some more.
Yeah, I've got one.
Okay, go.
This is from I Am the A, who will be watching later. What do you do with the crosses, crucifixes, and other religious imagery during strike? It always seems wrong to throw Jesus in the trash, so whenever I'm working, usually just keep whatever it is, but like, and we talked a little bit about this last night. This is in reference to a 4x8 foot crucifix that her company painted. It's gorgeous, by the way. If I can find the picture of it, she sent it to me last night.
I want to see this.
And they're just kind of keeping it in their shop right now. Which I guess that if you don't know what to do with it, I don't know. Oh, here it is.
We'll probably like donate it to like a local church.
Oh, okay, that's lovely.
So it's huge.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think if I wouldn't personally be offended if you made something and then you tossed it. I mean, I would be sad because it's gorgeous, but like, you can donate it. Some people will buy it off you, I think.
I think the important thing is that it's not whether it's been blessed or not. So,
I think personally think if you bought something like that, then you throw it away. Like that, what kind of message are you sending there?
Yeah.
But if you made it, it's more like, well, you decide what you do with it.
I know that
places that like throw away large set pieces. You know, you could use that again in a different show. Just paint it again. Like I don't know a lot of places that wouldn't store it.
I know there's a lot of places you can't store a lot of their extra set pieces because they don't have space. There's a lot of problems in Phoenix, ironically, where, yes, we're spread out suburb, but the actual metropolitan area, there's a small amount of space. So storage is always a problem. So with a lot of companies, it comes down to not wanting to disrespect, but simply they don't have the space for it.
I think for those that have little space, probably should see about donating it to a local church or something, but then if you're constantly donating religious items to a church, then they'll probably start saying no. So,
kind of on a.
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, if it's like my first thought when she asked this question was just like prop stuff, and that's because I think in small scales. That's my entire job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird for me to see rosaries and like the half dozen Virgens de Guadalupe that we have. We have 2 White Marys, 1 Black Mary, giant statues, and it's weird for me to see that in our prop storage. But it's also kind of like, well, it's being used for this purpose, and I understand that, and it's okay. It's just kind of awkward sometimes, but.
From the Buddhist perspective, there's actually a practice of meditation called sand mandala, which is, you probably heard of them as sand paintings, where the monks would create this large artwork out of sand. And once it is completed, the first task is to wipe it away. And a lot of people get really confused with that, especially those from Judeo-Christian beliefs, thinking, well, you just spent like a week dedicating this artwork to just sweep it away. And their idea is that's the exercise, that the faith isn't in the thing, it's in the action, showing that the physical object does not matter as long as it matters to you. So from the Buddhist standpoint, and it's really frustrating because I see a lot of iconography, both from the Theravada and the Mahayana sides of Buddhism, being used as trendy tramp stamp tattoos or cool little garden elements next to your garden gnome. So it kind of frustrates me thinking, that's not how you display the Buddha. That's okay, whatever. But remembering that it's what you value it as, not as what it is physically. Because then we get caught up into the whole thing that created, well, the Lutheran faith, getting caught up into things. But actively trying to make sure that things aren't, disrespected. Yeah, that's important. And so if you're on a show and you see a piece of religious iconography that you identify with that you would feel uncomfortable with, just talk to the TD and say, hey, can we set this to the side, or can you put that in my car if you're not going to use that? And most of the time they'll just say, yeah, because it needs to get out of the way. But again, it comes down to communication. And you'd be surprised how accommodating a company can be if they just know. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. It's
Julia,
valuable
you
2
there?
cents, so.
Oh. Are you there still?
She moved. Ah, damn it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Would you like to
I'm
pull up
not
on
Catholic, but I'm married to a Catholic, so it's always weird. Yeah, I moved. You can see my face.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Go, Julia. We're listening.
What were you going to say?
Alright. I'm so confused. I'm not Catholic. I'm married to a Catholic. So, and he's over there. That's who I keep looking at. He's over there. But it always is weird. Iconography is not something that as much as like Catholicism. So it was never something that I was worried about. Cross is a crucifix that's now going to be put into storage. It wasn't weird for me because it wasn't some respect and see as whole. So I think it's also where you come from, and that your tradition might be different than your company or your boss's tradition, and they don't know. And possible that you could feel like someone's disrespecting, so maybe they don't know it's something that's worthy of respect. Oh, a Buddhist, if I saw one,
What?
I wouldn't know really a lot about Middle Eastern faith. What I know, and I can't know what someone doesn't tell me that they're uncomfortable with.
Okay.
It's my 2 cents.
Oh, it's,
Yeah, I think it's a lot. There's a lot of, I think, pressure put on, and maybe this is just me, perhaps people, when it comes to religion, to really know what the heck you're talking about. People have to know about everything. It's hard to balance knowledge of different cultures, and sometimes in the work that you forget really the finer points. That makes sense.
it does.
Julia, I don't know if you're the same way. Damn it.
I think there's just a major lag going on.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Set it so that the lag wouldn't be as much of an issue. But
I don't think it's on your end. I think it's on Julia's end. I don't know.
I turn on my Wi-Fi for 2 seconds to do something.
Ah, that explains it.
You know,
it's true.
I need to turn on the cellular data on my phone.
God forbid you actually multitask. Ah.
Right? I'm just trying to use Tumblr, but like also do this.
I saw that mention.
It was
So you want to talk another question? Yay? Nay?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Cool. I actually got a really good one that is kind of near and dear to my heart as a TD and as an educator because of censorship or perception of censorship and all that wonderful mess. It's from another one, Anonymous. It says, "Hi, question for TechBlur that can possibly help. I found out from my high school theater instructor that we were considering doing the Laramie Project. It turns out that there was a huge backlash from a couple of Christian student rights groups who did not want us to do this. So the district has sided with them, saying that the Laramie Project was not going to be produced. Why isn't this being considered a violation of our First Amendment rights?" Okay. I hate to say this, your school district is correct. And the reason I say that is it really comes down to a little thing called the Hazelwood versus Colmere or Hazelwood Act of 1988, I think it is. Let me double check. Yeah, 1988. It was a school paper that sued the school because the school did not want them to print certain articles in their newspaper. The high school newspaper said this was censorship, sued them. Went from the regional to the state to the circuit court. I think it was Ninth Circuit Court, and then it went to the Supreme Court. And technically, the Supreme Court read it as the school is the producer or the editor in this case. They are providing the money to do the thing. Therefore, the producer or financier has a right to say no because it's their money. Going down to the public school level, if public funds are being used to fund a project, and if those in charge of those public funds say that this is not appropriate to what we as a district want to produce, then no, you can't produce it. And this Supreme Court decision from 1988 supports that. And it means that, yes, I personally think that the Laramie Project, which for those of you who don't know, it's about Samuel Shepard, who was a gay man who was beaten, tied to a fence post, and tortured and killed in Laramie, I think Laramie, Montana or Wisconsin, or one of those regions. And the play is about a lot of the politics around that.
Wyoming.
And yeah, so essentially your school does have a right to say, no, we won't produce that. Is it right? Yeah, well, that's a Supreme Court judgment to make and a judgment call for you. If it's a private theater company, that's different. But in this case, the Supreme Court did judge that the school has a right to say no. If these religious groups have a problem with it and the district thinks it's a problem, they're not going to fund it for you. Sorry. Anyone else?
I went to a Catholic school. Censorship was I loved my high school. I really do. But when it came to theater, every little thing, the noses of the dean and the principal, and you kind of got used to it. So it's weird for me now to go to, a more liberal college. So I really don't have much input in terms of censorship because my school had the right to do whatever they wanted, almost. And so does my private, not Christian college. They can also do with choosing the shows and editing them as well. Here's the thing with editing is you all know this, I'm sure, is the people who sell you the rights to say no, you can't do this to the script. So there have been very many issues where people have tried to censor things within a play, and mostly in college it's happened. It happened once in high school where we got the rights and we tried to change something and we couldn't do that play anymore. So there's that in terms of censorship. So
and that's
my
too,
2 cents.
In public school, that doesn't mean that they can tell you, they can teach things that are outside of the state certified curriculum. Like, for example, if you are going to a public high school and they want to teach creationism, and the district said, no, we are teaching purely STEM-based education methods, that in itself is not censorship. What we're talking about is anything produced in media by a school that is being funded. So that's where that decision ends. That being said, I always say challenge every censorship mode or anything that keeps you from doing it. That's your job as an artist. I want students to challenge me and say I'm wrong and push the envelope, because that's how we develop, that's how we grow, that's how we learn. And that's how we have gone from having shows where you literally had segregated casts from white kids and black kids to today, because people challenge those rules, and you need to. But as far as the Laramie project, that is the exact case they're looking at. If it were, say, something like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, if you wanted to edit something out because you found it religiously offensive, yeah, copyright supersedes that, and they will come down on you like a ton of bricks. It's like in doing anything with Disney. Don't edit Disney. You will lose all the time. Bill?
Bill or Julia?
Nothing? Really?
Nada?
Okay, that's fine. Then we'll talk to you anyway.
Well,
I'm
thank
kidding.
you, Nani. That's what I call anonymous people naughties. Nani.
Oh, okay.
It's cute.
I got my degree at a private. I went to Texas Christian University, and we did the Laramie project while I was there. And we didn't change anything. We didn't edit anything. So
then that probably just comes down to, again, what administration, how much headache did they want to put up with, and probably your...
Yeah, so my school, when I went to college, we did the Laramie project, and we didn't edit it, and it was challenging, and it was in Texas, and people had to get over themselves.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that's the thing too, is you get a lot.
And then I read an article about someone trying to edit The Last Days of Judas Iscariot. Not super familiar with, but apparently they got the rights to it, and then they did editing without getting permission. And
Man. I think we lost the last part of that.
You're doing so well.
I know, you were doing so good. Yeah, we lost the last part of that, Julia.
all right, come on.
All right,
I
you
believe.
back? We were back.
I am, by the way, 100% doing this from bed. So you'll know.
We lost Julia again.
She'll be back,
Okay,
I'm sure.
because I feel really bad. I don't know. I don't know how to help.
All right.
So I guess we can go with more questions. Yes.
It's more, not much of a question, more as a general topic. Kind of bouncing off what we were just talking about. How do you deal with doing a play that's not exactly within your morals to an extreme? I can't really think of an example of this because it actually has not come up for me yet.
I have a couple. Actually.
Something big would be, I don't know, I guess abortion would be a big one for me. That would be hard to do, especially as a prop person. I don't know, I imagine dealing with it as like, but also being very clear with myself where I stand on it. Just as the very almost a trad Catholic, traditionalist, almost. It's hard for me to do certain things. I think as a prop person, it's very specific because I am very much, down on the ground making props and being involved in those decisions. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way.
I come more from a music side. I mean, I've done thousands of shows on theater, but most of my work has come in live music and music production. And I have done consultation for a lot of mega churches, training their crews, because a lot of mega churches, you get a lot of influx of money and they want their shows to be rock concert level. Well, sometimes to get rock concert level, you've got to work rock concerts, and they're not always the most Christian places to work. So they'll try to get consultants in to get those skills, which is great. Most of them have been fantastic. Hey, Julia's back. Sweet.
I'm on the MacBook now, so maybe.
All right. Hey. This is awesome. All right, great.
Hooray!
As much as I hate Apple, I'm doing this from an Apple. So
I know you hate Apple. I know. I'm sorry.
Hey, I'm doing this from a MacBook too. So don't look at me.
It's working.
I'm doing this from the Lenovo.
My little HP can't handle it.
Well, if it makes you guys feel any better, I'm running Windows 10 on this Mac.
I got Windows 10 on a custom desktop with a crappy 10-year-old webcam, so.
Yeah, I mean, my computer is about 6 years old, and it was like $300 6 years ago. So it works for what I need it to work for. And now
which is not this.
The light. Right. I love you.
All right. So we got everybody here. This is cool. Yay.
And now it seems to be working.
Yeah. I can talk to you now. This is great. Conversations. Awesome.
It's actually a hangout and not a...
Yeah. Okay. Where were we?
About morality.
Shows that might conflict with your religious views extremely.
I've never had to deal with
stuff that's really hard to reconcile.
As I was saying just before you popped on, I've done a lot of consultations for a lot of churches, because church audio is always one of those deep, dark black holes where you get a lot of stuff going on with equipment that people don't know, with training that people might not have. But the congregation might have a higher expectation. So they bring outside people in. And most of these churches have been great. I mean, this is before I was a technical director with the university. Through consultation, I got to work with a lot of religious groups and people I never would have interacted with personally before. And it's made me a better person, a better Buddhist, and a better human. That being said, I have encountered a couple of churches where I was happy to take my check and run, because I personally felt like my life was in danger. Seriously. This is Arizona, though, so we have a very wide swath of faiths here. Believe it or not, regardless of what Fox News may say, we're actually pretty diverse here in Phoenix. And I go from some of my most positive experiences. For example, I worked with a Messianic Jewish congregation. I didn't even know what Messianic Judaism was. And I left with it thinking they were the best people I've ever worked with, and they were good people. To other religious groups, which I won't mention, which were essentially, I was the Antichrist, for whatever term that they would apply that to. And it was very hard, because I'm here doing a professional job. I'm here in a secular mindset. But the way I looked at it is, this is art. I went to school for art. They are trying to convey a message through art, and they are paying me to help them do this. It's as if I'm working a Justin Bieber concert. I don't like Justin Bieber. But if you pay me to be on a Justin Bieber concert, I'm going to be there. I'm going to do my best damn job possible. But at the end of the day, I may not pick up that phone again. So it is kind of, again, it comes down to a moral choice. And, and that's something that we all have to make as artists. Because, yes, the production technicians are artists. Don't let anyone tell you differently. All right? If you do, kick him in the face.
Maybe don't get arrested for assault.
Please.
I'll take you up.
Do so the Jeffrey Chaucer way. They'll embarrass you for a day. You could eviscerate them for a lifetime in Word. But yeah, I mean that's a choice you're going to have to make. I did some of these consultations, and there are consultations that I turned down. There has, in fact, one of the big things that came across personally was somebody from the outside world, the non-academic world, contacted me. He said, "Hey, I need you to edit some audio for this album." Like, I haven't done mastering in a long time, but it was kicked over by a friend of mine who was an audio engineer. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me check it out. It was a white pride band.
Oh.
And I don't know if you can tell by my back wall. Yeah, me and white pride groups get along wonderfully. So I simply told him to piss off and never to contact me professionally or personally again. That was my choice. I know there was another audio engineer who did take the job, and I'm going to have to stop working with him. I mean, these are personal choices you have to make, be it in faith or politics or whatever. The thing is, like, for example, I'm not a Christian. Some Christian ideals and mine don't mix, but I like working with Christians. They're fun people. So therefore, I enjoy doing that. It's just a matter of what side. That's really the only marker. You're not wrong. Whatever decision you make, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else,
Right.
you're not wrong. So don't ever get that in your head that you're making the wrong decision. If you're comfortable with it, then it's the right decision. That's all I got.
I think that's a really good. Oh, I got a question.
Oh, hey.
Jared, this is actually for you.
Ooh.
What are the flags behind you, Jared?
Well, one of them is the Union Jack because I am from Northern Ireland. I am Ulster. Yes, I'm not Irish. No, the war was complete bullshit. I'm glad we got over it. And the other one is a bisexual pride flag because I am bi.
All right. Thank you very much. Jared, do you have a question for us? Sorry, I didn't let Julia or Philip talk.
Philip, you can go first.
Okay. There isn't much that I have, like, anything that I wouldn't do as yet. Although there are some shows that I know that I won't do, like Chicago, for like various morality reasons. I tried watching the movie. I couldn't watch it because it was way too much. Way too much that I didn't agree. Like morality, I didn't agree with. So the shows like the Full Monty. It's kind of like on the modesty type of side of things.
It's a shame because one of my favorite songs in musicals comes from Chicago, Mr. Cellophane. My favorite song ever.
Yeah.
Go on. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think I'll like figure out what I can't personally do unless I actually encounter it. So that's kind of my deal. So. Yeah, no, so I've not been able to do figure out what I can do. I kind of experience and figure out. Yeah.
I haven't run into really an experience where I'm just super uncomfortable religiously speaking, because I know my morals and my boundaries, and I know what I'm comfortable with and what I'm not comfortable with. And I know I don't have that kind of Catholic guilt. This is the best way that I know to put it. I don't have that sense that I need to go to confession. You know, like I'll work with anybody, I'll do any show. I know my personal boundaries, like I won't get naked on stage, and I won't say certain things, or I won't do certain things. But I haven't yet run into an experience where I just will refuse to do a production because it really doesn't agree with me. I had a really good friend back in Austin, Texas, who was in on crew with me, and he was a Satanist, and that was like probably the hardest working relationship I had, because we could just never talk about religion at all, because it was super uncomfortable for both of us. Goodbye, Jinx. Thank you for coming to the hangout.
It's funny because my sister was a Satanist, and at first, you know, again, the Buddhist part of me is like, I need to know more. I don't understand. So I guess for me, on getting into it and seeing kind of both sides on it, I was able to be because she worked on other shows. Because she was an actor, and we worked on other shows together. And it was really just come down to just not talk about religion.
Yeah, you learn where you can't talk with people, and you just talk about other things.
Because then you start vilifying the other person, and that's because each person is looking at the other as a human. Mm-hmm. And if you know it's going to cause a conflict, sometimes it might be just better to agree to disagree, which sounds kind of off-putting, but sometimes.
Yeah. So sometimes you have to avoid certain topics if you want to keep a professional relationship going.
And like I said, there's a lot of shows I've worked on. I've worked with a lot of music festivals, like we're primarily Christian worship music based. And I'll be honest, with some of the Christian faiths, I have some issues with that. But that doesn't preclude from me making art with artists. And I have to put that aside, knowing that as long as I'm not promoting hate, I'm good. That's my personal line. If there is any material that promotes hate or division within civil society, like targeting a certain demographic or group and saying that they are evil and they are sinful, that's when I'm pulling out my patch cords. I'm going home. That's my personal line.
I think that's very well put.
That was uplifting.
What?
That was uplifting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna switch chairs.
Jared, do you have a question for us?
Me? Yeah, I got a couple more. Let me get back to that screen. I was reblogging stuff.
Did anyone else get questions, by the way?
Yes.
No, no one likes me.
Unfortunately, I'm not popular enough to get anything.
Well, I got like 4 or 5. I got to go back and look through here.
I'm pretty sure that your post was the first time that anyone has heard my URL.
Oh.
No, it's all right. Backstage Left and I are buddies.
Well, now everyone will hear about
it. Yay! I'm Tumblr famous.
All 7 people.
Not. It's okay. I'm 7 people. One of them was my husband working, and then he said, all right, you need to switch computers with me because I can't hear you.
Oh, so that's probably why we went down in numbers.
Because of him. I know. He can't look on my computer because it won't work. So what are you going to do?
Okay. All right, hang on. Because I'm running 2 different web browsers because I hate Chrome, but I have to use it for the Google Hangout stuff.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I'm trying to make this work. Another one from Anonymous or Nani or whoever you want to call this guy, gal, it, they.
Grayface, I've heard that.
Grayface.
That's what Steve calls him.
Nani face.
Yeah, Grayface sounds like very much an insult, so I don't know if you want to do that. Okay.
I heard about that. I never really understood that. So.
And actually, this one just popped up, but I kind of want to throw this out there. It says, hi, for the Tech Religion Hangout, you said that your fine line is anything that promotes hate or violence. If so, do you actively turn away Muslim productions, given what their religion's about?
Oh.
Okay. How do I phrase this? Go learn about Islam.
Yeah.
Okay. I have rarely met a faith that encourages outward violence like you're suggesting, and no. I have many coworkers and fellow artists and colleagues that are Muslim, and I've never felt threatened by any of them.
I wish Veggie Broadway was here.
Yeah, so if you're trying to infer that Muslim faith is a violent faith, I think you need to find another channel. That's where I'm going to leave that before I get crazy.
All I'm gonna say is if you're asking about a show that's based around Muslims supporting violence, then I would say no, I'm not going to, because I know there's truth in who those people are, and if it's not, and it's not what I think is truthful and it's instead hurtful, then the answer should be obvious. That with almost any show, I think.
Very cool.
Oh, and also someone wants to know what our URLs are. I'm Prop It Like It Hot.
The URL theater and music production people want to follow is the SPL, the -S-P-L. I do have a personal blog called The Bad Mad Mod, but you won't find as much theater stuff on there, just angry, aging, Northern Soul punk musician stuff.
Me, I'm Rocondo, Roccondil. It's Elvish for my name, so. Yeah.
And I'm Hobie Ho, Here We Go. Hobie, Hobeyho. Here We Go. Hobie Ho is from a book series called the Pendragon series, and it means let's start an adventure. And then Here We Go is from Mario, because I'm a dork.
Yes.
In high school, when I first heard your URL, I used to go, Hobie Ho, Here We Go.
Here we go. Here we go.
Like REO from like REO Speedwagon.
I mean, I like REO
What's
Speedwagon,
that?
but it's Hobie Ho.
Okay.
Like, it's the story. It's really cool. My husband got me into it. It's a universe time traveling teenager who can like go to different universes and change history, and it's super fun, and you should read it. It's by DJ McHale. All right.
Cool. I always like new books.
Oh,
and all
thank
that.
you, Juliana.
It's not-
Juliana.
Cool. Okay, I do have a couple of more. So I'm sure I'll get lots of wonderful messages from my little statement on that. Pretty sure they don't follow me anyway. Ah, here we go. The Thing Ring. I actually know this guy. He has a cool little hip hop blog about his local hip hop scene. It's pretty cool. Says, if you are working on a show or a gig and it is during a religious holiday, how do you handle that if you have to work? All right. So, in other words, if you have a gig and you're stuck, like for the Catholics and the Christians, if you're stuck there on Christmas, what do you do?
Oh, I've known people to just host Christmas at the gig. Like when we did Christmas Carol in Austin, like I didn't do the show, but a bunch of my friends did. And the stage moms of all the kids would bring a Christmas tree and decorate the green room, and you would just have Christmas there. You know, it wasn't the same as being with your family, but at least you got a little bit of Christmas. And it wasn't like, oh my God, I have to be at work. This is terrible. I can't celebrate at all. Like it was still, okay, there's cookies, there's presents, there's ornaments on a tree, and Christmas music is playing. And then the show happens, and then you go home. Like,
I was kind of feel like the theater, depending on how close you are to the cast and crew, it's also a second family too. So
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I know that on one of the gigs we had, it was a very difficult client. We had a cast member who was Muslim, and it was Ramadan, and they were going through their fast. And our gig was going past midnight. So when the day hit, I just ordered a whole bunch of pizzas. And we all made sure not to eat anything out of respect to him, respect for him. And it was really kind of cool. It was a small crew of about 4 people, but it was like,
oh, come on.
you know, when you see something like that, it goes on. It's like, wow, you guys are really awesome. You know, so sometimes it's the little things like that, even if it's not quite your faith per se, they can really mean a lot to somebody who's got to work on a show. And, you know, when the desire for the paycheck, you know, means that, you know, I'd rather eat this week than maybe have to go to this holiday, and we get it. So little stuff like that, you know, it's work doesn't always have to be about work.
And
I was working on
where like, especially in theater, because we're a very creative group, so it kind of sometimes you have to do some random things or help people that help people on a human level. So, yeah.
Hey, Lucas.
So I guess
I remember. I remember I was working on Easter. Sorry.
You're right.
No, are you talking? I can't tell.
No, it's not like some like phone thing going on or something. Go ahead.
I was working on Easter, and I got the whole cast peeps. And like most of them are Jewish anyway, but I just got them all peeps, and I think that was just something that was universally appreciated since we were working through on a holy day weekend. Yeah, it's little things like that.
Jews have Passover the same weekend as Easter, right?
Passover and Easter usually overlap, typically.
Yeah, it's Easter. The date of Easter is based off of, and the Passover is based
on the moon. Yeah.
So for me, combating loneliness. This is a general tech thing that I've noticed. I noticed there was a post for stage managers on loneliness as well. But I mean this specifically in a religious sense. Like, how do you deal when you may be the only one practicing of your faith and not necessarily discrimination in a sense, but more of a, and it's kind of sad sometimes.
As somebody of a minority religious group in Phoenix, there aren't very many Buddhists. I mean, there's so few. For example, when my wife was at work, way back when we were getting married, she said, mentioned something about us getting married and me being Buddhist, and we were having a wedding ceremony. And the first thing one of her coworkers says, "Oh, I didn't know your boyfriend was Asian." So, yeah, she's like, "No, he's English." Yeah, so I am kind of used to the fact that there aren't many Buddhists in industry line work, and frankly, in my work, especially in education, my religion is not a factor. And for my faith, that's not a big deal, because we're taught that seeking a path to enlightenment is a personal journey. You don't have to drag other people into it. If you feel compelled to be a missionary of it, then maybe you're looking for something else beyond actual truth. So it's really encouraged to be more, even though it's an organized religion, it's more more personal. It's not something to call more of a philosophy, but it's just something I've had to adjust to in general living in Arizona, as opposed to living in the UK, where there is a much greater Buddhist population.
We'll be going to church, either of us, possibly. Okay? So you need to just bring a pair of pants to go on.
I mean, I think you just have to find your people. I think that not everyone you're friends with has to be the same religion as you, and not everybody that you know in your life has to be the same religion as you.
Exactly.
I think it makes you a better, more well-rounded human being if you have friends who are different than you. And I think that theater does a really great job of bringing all sorts of people together. It's very easy to become lonely and to think that you're the only person like you in your department or in your show or in your shop or wherever, or in your workplace, wherever you are. But you just have to get out there and like find your people, and you'll end up making the best friends of your life. Backstage at Les Miserables, hanging out behind the barricade, and they might not agree with you on everything, but at least you're good friends now, and it doesn't matter.
That's not exactly what I'm saying here is where I maybe experienced this setting as much as it was. It was actually a camp. With that, I have, my friends, but I also, didn't have much of a faith community because I was at camp. That was very challenging for me. And I think also is to stay in LA, hopefully, or I don't know, like next summer I'm going to go to New York to work at a theater camp. Fingers crossed. I have to talk to the camp director. I might have the same issue where friends, and I make friends very easily, who are different from me, and that's fine. But then I'll be lacking that faith community, which is very important to me.
Sometimes I have to make my faith community at church, and then just have those friends at church. Sometimes, and they
right where you can.
Yeah.
That's like, how do you deal with this?
You just get married and own a cat.
Get married and own a cat.
Marriage isn't for everybody, but it helps me.
I think that's a good way to end that question.
Get married and own a cat. There you go.
I will get married and own a cat.
Does the bunny count?
She's a great cat. She's not hanging out up here anymore because I made her sit with me. But
she helps get very comfortable. Can get really
on Tumblr.
Yeah, my wife insists that cats are
Jared,
not...
would you...
What? Yes?
Would you question?
Oh, yes, question, yes. Let's see here. God, this browser sucks. I hate Chrome. From another anonymous. As a Christian, I have found it difficult to connect with a lot of my cats because it feels like a lot of their morals are more lax than mine. Is this an overall issue with other Christians or just a perception issue? Interesting. I'll let Christian start off first.
Personally, I think that you can't control other people's morals. And I don't think you as a Christian, I don't think that Jesus would want you to force them to conform to your ways. He would want you just to love them. And so when I have friends who don't follow my moral code, I love them anyways. And I'm still friends with them. And then if we need to, we have a conversation about it because we're adults and we can handle it. But if it doesn't affect the work or my life, I usually just let it slide. That's just me.
Sometimes there are.
I think that's a good way of putting it.
Go ahead. Sometimes there are a few things that there's a bit of you might need to have a little bit of correction with someone, but yeah, definitely you can't control everyone. You can't force anyone to follow your codes or the codes of your faith. And yeah, so start off good, chilled off, but yeah, it's all trying to. What was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I've been in that situation, just even with my regular friends, and I don't know. I'm very loud about my faith, and that's. I mean, I'm able to control that, but people tend to know where I stand on things, And if it comes up, then we talk about it. But most of the time, it's just a matter of accepting that person as who they are and being who you are and leading by your example and learning from them. I think it's very important. And I think a lot of Julia said attest to that.
My perspective, I guess, is probably a little, I don't know, I wouldn't say different, because I don't know, seeing that statement, asking, those who are a little less moral, I tend to think that's a little more of a very subjective statement, because, say, for example, well, an issue that came up before about concerns about nudity. Just because somebody is more or less self-conscious about their body image or their state of nudity does not reflect on their morality. I mean, that is where you're in danger. You're getting into a very dangerous area of imprinting your morals upon somebody else. For example, I guess morally, I don't have an attachment of nudity to sexualization. That seems to be a very Judeo-Christian thing. But at the same time, I cannot morally hunt another living animal. So while you might find the fact that I have other actors running around naked doesn't bother me at all, but me hearing you talking about your hunting trip taking down a 6-point buck on the workplace pisses me off to no end. So morality is really much a sliding scale, and you kind of got to be careful about that, especially if it almost gets to the point of judging other people or trying to think that because you feel some way, that's the baseline of morality. So I don't know. I'm just saying be careful with that kind of logic, because just because they don't share the same moral beliefs you do doesn't mean they're immoral.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And just because you're a Christian or doesn't mean you're the most moral person.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's very true. I mean, I know
a lot of Christians who don't have the same moral code that I do.
And for all the Buddhists out there who look at Steve Jobs, he's a bad Buddhist. No, we're not all the same. The rich chick running around Rodeo Drive in a Tesla with a little chihuahua in the handbag with daddy's credit cards doesn't exactly mean all Buddhists think that way, because that's kind of weird. So again, it's very much a sliding scale. You got to be careful about judging your morality to others. Anyway, I gotta deal with it. Anyone else have any other questions? Any other things that's come up?
I don't have anything.
I'm trying to get into the stupid Tumblr.
I'm like, I remember Jared had a post at the one of our Hangout's coming, and there were fun questions like how to do Jesus Christ Superstar while making both the atheists and the Christians happy. And I was like, oh my God, I am not qualified to participate on this.
Well, I was just putting some common questions I've heard from students that have come up, because that does come up in class a lot, is working on shows, especially with our music production classes, and people going to school for engineering, but but those hip hop people, they talk about violence and sex and all that. I'm like, okay, you cannot take the gig, or you don't have to put your name on the album cover, that's fine. It's really a personal choice on that. As far as Jesus Christ Superstar, you're never going to make anybody happy, 100%. Don't even try.
Isn't there a quote? You can make some of the people happy all of the time, but you can't make all of the some of the people happy some of the time, all of the people happy none of the time. Something like that. There's some quote by the president.
Perfect example is with Jesus Christ Superstar. Traditionally, since the way Andrew Lloyd Webber had originally designed it, and I'm not a fan of his. You'll find that.
The Gospel according to Andrew Lloyd Webber, as my teacher used to call it.
Exactly. The role of Judas is cast as a black person. You can see where there would be some problems with this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So just by following the casting traditions alone, you've upset people. Sorry?
I I had a professor who talked about, I believe that's color concept casting. There's a long post on it on my Tumblr. I'll pull it up and reblog it later. And it's talking about, for instance, if you cast person, what are you saying about Black people, or what are you saying about darkness, or what kind of message are they like? They're trying to portray some kind of concept based on the casting of an actor. And she used Jesus Christ Superstar as an example for that.
Well, I mean, a perfect example is everyone's favorite golden child right now, Lin-Manuel Miranda, with Hamilton. All of the roles are meant to be cast by minority actors, except one, King George III.
Yeah. The token white guy, yeah.
Well, I mean, it makes a very clear point, too. And it's a point he wants to convey.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
I think she called that, not color concept, that was, oh gosh, it's been a long time since I've seen the post. If you guys didn't know, I run Out of Context Broadway as well. I run a lot of side blogs.
All of my blogs are just one blog.
Yeah.
But yeah, me, it's like I have the education music blog, and then this is not an appropriate. This is adult. No. Not that there's anything bad on there. It's just
Okay.
political.
Personal.
It's political.
So I'm reblogging it now for anyone who wants to take a look at it. And it goes through the differences between colorblind casting, color concept casting, societal casting, which is what Lin-Manuel Miranda, I believe, was trying to do. Mm-hmm. Cross-cultural casting and color-specific casting. Also color puppet casting, which is a thing. And I don't really know how we got here.
Like puppet, like Avenue Q puppet? Or like, sorry.
You better not be talking smack about my hero, Jim Henson.
I love Avenue Q. Oh yeah, okay.
Oh, God,
so it is color puppet casting at a la Avenue Q.
Oh, that's one of my favorite. It hasn't aged well, but I don't care. I love it.
So good though. It might be hashtag problematic, but I don't care.
Oh, I hear my wife giggling from across the other room. Oh God, it was. I don't care if it's problematic. It was very true. There are so many like. I don't know. I just. Yeah. All I could say is that if it's your first Broadway musical, it's gonna leave an impression. So. Let me see if I get my. Let's see if my web is cooperating now. Oh, hey, look at that. Gone through like 4. I'm trying to open my inbox, but it's being an issue for some stupid reason. I hate this mouse. You buy the $80 fancy Apple mouse.
8 viewers. We had 9 at one point.
We're so famous now, you guys.
Hey, look, we got people talking. Oh, it's just jellyfish. Not just a jellyfish. I'm sorry, that was
It's my favorite jellyfish.
Your favorite jellyfish. Okay. Oh, okay. I was just trying to.
I can tell you the story of her nickname, but that's her story to tell, so I won't.
Oh, hey, look at that. Got another question from another anonymous. You guys can put your name on here. It's okay.
I mean, it's also okay to be anonymous. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
How religious are you at work?
Ooh.
That's actually a really good question.
That's a question. I'll usually just mention that I'm Catholic, but that's usually just in passing in the conversation. If it comes up, then eventually they'll ask, why are you coming a little bit late on Sunday, or what's that weird smudge on your face on Ash Wednesday? That's happened. That's happened before.
Smudge on your face. Oh, that's your face.
And like people come up to you and they're like, "Hey, you've got something." No, that's supposed to be there.
Those conversations do come up. It's not usually an overpowering thing. Just something if you're friends with me, then it tends about me very quickly.
For me, it's really never been an issue or really even come up at work at all. And I work mainly in an academic environment because I work for two different college and university. So really, it doesn't come up for me at work at all. It only usually comes up in a private, like either with my friends or people I interact with on a non-work level. Ironically, usually when I'm buying ammo, when I go to the range. Most people are like, wait, you're Buddhist and you want a gun? Like, yeah, I don't carry it.
Yeah.
I don't like violence, but I like things that go bang. It's like I thought, like it's like MythBusters. You like things that go bang.
Yeah. If they don't go bang, make them go bang.
Yeah, but as far as at work, it really is a non-issue. It doesn't come up, and I don't bring it up really, unless it's something very casual mention. But it's usually ends with, "Oh, okay. Oh, anyway."
For like when I'm at school, we usually when it's time to load in our show, it usually depending on how big it is, it'll usually take about 3 days to get in. We do it Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I always say, hey, I'm gonna be a little bit later on Sunday because I got church mass to go to, and they're kind of like, okay, as long as you know that, as long as we know that we're coming in. So otherwise, really hasn't. Everyone knows that I'm Catholic, but they just kind of shrug. So they kind of, it's almost like I'm like secret agent infiltrating.
Secret agent.
I don't know, like it doesn't really ever come up. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it doesn't really come up at work either. I don't work in theater right now. I work from home. I do this really boring job where I work in Canada. It's stupid, whatever. So I only interface with people via like chat messaging. And so we never talk. So I don't have to deal with it at work. And then if I am in a show, you talk to people and you have conversation with them and you find out what they're about and they find out what you're about, and it'll come up in conversation if it comes up in conversation. I'm super open because when I first got married, he's Catholic, I'm not. I was like scared to come out as Protestant at Catholic church.
As somebody from Northern Ireland,
it's funny because I'm the same way at Protestant churches.
It's like, oh, what if people find out that I don't believe in the same thing that they do? Like, what are they going to think? And I just got over it. Like, they're going to find out that I don't believe the same thing as them, and they're going to like me or they're going to hate me, and I don't care. Like, I am who I am, and it's fine.
And that's actually a really serious concern for other people. If we have any of our, 7 or 8 viewers at this point. 8, right on. Have questions about this from other countries, because I grew up in Northern Ireland in the 1980s, and the fact whether you were Catholic or Protestant was a matter of life or death.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why we ended up moving to America. It was just too much. My mother was serving in the military over there, and a lot of that mindset still carries over. You'll see a lot of this in very strong Ulster or Irish Catholic neighborhoods, such as in Boston, such as in Baltimore. South side of Chicago, you still find this very strong present element, which people from like California or the Midwest might not see as much of. But these are very serious questions that still have that overtone still. Mm-hmm. And you find a lot of people not talking about it at work or on shows because they have that fear still. Because like Good Friday Accord in Northern Ireland occurred in 1996. I mean, yeah, there was still some fighting after that. So that's how recent. And if you talk to any Muslim theater workers or migrants, it's still a problem, and it's increasing. If anyone heard about the bombing in Minnesota, this like yesterday. So it actually is a good question about how out should one be at work, especially in show production. And that's kind of a scary thing right now.
My cat is making noise. I don't know what she's doing, but she's behind me.
That's creepy.
She's, yeah.
Cats are creepy. I don't trust cats. That's the real menace. Cats.
Yeah. Who wants to talk about religion when we can talk about cats? Way more interesting. We'll get more viewers if we talk about cats.
You'd be surprised.
We lure them in with cats, then hit them with that.
Now, let's not talk about the musical cats, please.
Blog the post and say there's a cat involved. And more people.
Yeah, wait, let's see our count now that we're talking about cats. We're up to 8.
8 still.
Well, that theory went out the window. Thanks.
Well, here, let's bring the cat in. Come here.
I will
let's bring the cat. That's a
we
desperate
are
play for
talking
ratings. I love it.
Cat Felix.
Oh my God, it's a
Cat
cat.
holiday.
She's so mad.
There's a comic strip.
My cat doesn't have a religion.
That's going to be the next question. Yes.
There's a
Yes,
comic
go
where
ahead.
there's a guy in a he's sitting a guy or I'm not sure what the character, but he was sitting in the group and he had a bunch of cats all over him, and then the sign says is Catholics Anonymous,
Catholics.
but he and the caption is saying the guy when he got to the meeting he figured out that he had read it wrong. Instead of cataholic is Catholics, so. I
know that comic. I've seen it.
Yeah, but
Oh my God. Oh, hang on. I got things.
Cat.
Oh, I got a question. Yay!
Yay!
Okay. Huggable Kaiju. Really cool blog, by the way. You should follow it. Very cool, like pro-feminist, anti-fascist stuff.
Oh,
Have you or the others had people doubt your faith or spirituality because of your work? How do you handle that? That's a good one.
have I what?
Have you or others in the group had your faith or spirituality doubted because of your work?
Oh.
As Buddhists, people have a lot of misconceptions about that faith because all they see of it is in the movies, which is ironically perpetuated by other Buddhists like Keanu Reeves. Love the guy, but stop making so many violent action films. Anyway, no, actually, I have had some people work with me on show load-ins and load-outs, and for those who don't know, music production is like theater production, fast forwarded about 5 times the speed. Our load-ins last hours, not days. Our sound checks last minutes, not hours. So it's a very high stress, and there's a lot of money involved. And one show the kind of shows I work, $100,000 will change hands in one night. So it's a very high stress environment and high pressure environment. So I love the F word. I love it. And I tend to be very forthright and gruff. And a lot of people who see that think I'm a very confrontational, aggressive person. And you don't think about that when you think of Buddhism. And I always tell people, you're never a perfect Buddhist because then you'd be Buddha. I've rarely had that question, but I've had that come up a couple times. Like, well, you're not acting very Buddhist. I'm like, yeah, you keep that up, I'm going to act even less. But that's me acknowledging my flaws. But yeah, I mean, kind of interesting for the
definitely come up in like.
Sorry,
I'm just saying it definitely comes up occasionally with like parents and stuff, but never really gotten any questioning like that directly. So.
I feel like if anyone does doubt my faith or spirituality, they're at least kind enough to not tell me to my face.
Yeah.
To not, they won't say to me like, "Oh, you're being a bad Christian right now," because like they're kinder than that, the people I hang out with. I don't know. Usually if anyone doubts my faith or spirituality, it's me. And I'm like, am I being a good enough Christian right now? Would Jesus be proud of me? Would God be proud of me? Do I need to go to confession even though I'm not Catholic?
I mean,
so usually my biggest doubter is myself. And the way I deal with that is usually by just kind of going back and diving deeper into faith, or being really stubborn and not doing anything about it.
I mean,
That's very Protestant.
known lovingly Catholic. Like for example, I was working on Evita. That's what it was.
That's good.
I was working on Evita, and I'm the one who knew, like what some of the Latin was. I'm the one who realized that the staging they did on the balcony of the Casa Rosada was made to, like, several times they made to mirror Marian images, and I'm the one who was connected it and actually told the girl who played Evita, and she was like, no fucking way.
She didn't realize that the scene on the balcony was the kind of the conification of the Pietà with Mary, and I don't know.
What they did was they did this beautiful I think I posted it on Tumblr once. They did this beautiful projected on that connected to the back of her skirt, and they had the whole ensemble holding it at the edges, and it's supposed to look like it's called Mary, Queen of Heaven, and there's all these little angels that are holding her veil, and that's what it was supposed to be. I'm the only one who knew that. One person, the whole company, besides the director. So it's stuff like that, and so no, I've never had my faith doubted. If anyone's worked on Marisol before.
No.
No, it's like God steps away from the world and just leaves the world on its own, and everything is crashing down, and it's kind of terrible to watch.
Oh, that's sad.
For me to look at it and be like, oh, that's bullshit. Like, it was hard for me to do that. I don't know why.
I don't know. Anybody I've encountered that is big on questioning somebody else's faith, my first response is, okay, what agenda are you pushing, buddy? Because why do I have to listen to this? But that was actually a really good question. I can't believe I didn't think of that one. That was very interesting.
Well, it's like the other day I was taking a bike ride, and I don't exercise. I don't know if you can tell. But I was taking a bike ride, and it was my first bike ride in God knows how long. And I got off of my bike to walk my bike because I need a break because I'm really tired. And someone coming up the trail was like, oh, bikes are for riding, not for walking. And I was like, I don't have to justify myself to you. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know where I am. You don't know where I'm at in my fitness journey. I feel really similarly about my faith. I don't need to justify myself to you. I know where I'm at. And I'll talk to you about it. But I don't need to justify myself to you. And if you want me to, sorry, deal.
But I think we can all agree that people we should be judging are Segway riders.
Especially the tours.
Oh. There's a venue I work at in Tempe. It's right next to a lake, and they have all these Segway tours that go through there. And a couple of years ago, apparently there was a software glitch where the Segway would just reset itself, which means that it would shut down and turn back up. So you see somebody going along, and all of a sudden, wham!
Oh,
face plant somebody, and somebody did that in front of the room that we were performing in. It has glass walls. Yeah, mixed sound in a glass room. That's what was fun. But going out and we saw this, and it was just anyway. My segue story there. There you go. It was hilarious. All these rich people freaking out because they face planted. I think there's a video of it online too. It's funny as hell. I know it's laughing at the suffering of others. Very non-Buddhist thing to do, but God, is it funny? Anyway.
You know, if God didn't have a sense of humor, he wouldn't have made the platypus or the giraffe.
Hey, giraffe's cute.
Or me.
Oh, that's just sad.
No, I'm self-deprecating.
That's just sad, though.
Kiwis are huger than they actually you think they
I
are.
love all animals.
Kiwis like huge. You think of them as like
Australia, hi Ray. Probably watching.
Jinx, what else do we have to talk about? It's religion.
I'm trying to get the Tumblr thing to work on Chrome. It sucks. It keeps logging me out.
Well, Tumblr just sucks in general. Like,
Well, yeah, we're here though. Come on.
it helps us meet each other and be friends, but like the website is a hellhole.
oh, you can't escape them.
I'm loving the new Discord, and I've never used it before, but I kind of love it.
I'm a weird old person and don't understand how to use it, so I will. Discord, I don't get it. I just have to play with it, and I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah, it's without being too blunt. How old are you, Julia?
I'm 28. Like, I'm not that old.
I was about to say it's like the old IRC chat channels, but you're too young for that.
I know.
Oh God, I feel old. I'm gonna go like make some tea and lie down. Oh God, it's
On that note,
It's kind of
What's that? I'm sorry, were you gonna say something?
I was gonna say it's Discord is very similar to this other chat program that I was the convention that I was using. They wanted to use that for their team. Slack. So it's very similar to Slack. That I'm not sure if any of you use that program, but it basically it's like a business. It's designed for business teams to be able to have a chat room where they don't have to send out their numbers to everyone. So yeah.
Oh, I finally got someone to work, and I have another question. Yay!
yay!
Another anonymous.
Yay!
That's the same.
What are your thoughts on editing Shakespeare for religious schools and audiences? Y'all realize Shakespeare was a
school or
Catholic,
private
right?
school?
You said religious audiences. They didn't say otherwise.
I don't really understand the question because, like,
I think he's asking editing out parts of Shakespeare for a religious audience, like a Catholic school or something, which I've encountered.
Yes.
Good example is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to come up with another example because a couple of years ago I actually performed in A Winter's Tale, and there's a scene in the middle which has basically everyone dancing around, and everyone's in like a burlap sack or something like that, and they they're supposed to stick their thumb out like a little hole, but it's near their private area, so it's supposed to look like as if they're actually doing it. And we edited that out. We skipped over that sequence, but yeah. So I'm getting what you're saying. So
yeah, I mean, at our venue, we had a Catholic school do a very good production of Midsummer Night's Dream, and these were high school kids, and I thought they did a fantastic job. But I thought it was interesting when one of the technicians was asking. I asked him, "How did you think it went?" No, oh, it was great, but it was, I don't know, something about Oberon and Pocket. They were great, but I don't get it. And I was like, "Very no homo." She was like, "Yes, so no homo." Like I said, Shakespeare was Catholic. So I mean, I'm very much anti-censorship, but then again, I also have to live in the real world, and I'm not a part of a lot of the rental clients that we have at the venue. I'm that guy who thinks Shakespeare should be performed in its entirety as it is. I don't care if it's 6 hours long. You're going to sit down and watch it. But I'm not a fan of editing personally, but that's where I guess end, because I don't have that same viewpoint of needing to edit Shakespeare. I do music. So.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a Catholic school, and we never did plays, and that's kind of annoying to me. They started doing plays after I left. Musicals were the thing. Someone asked a question. Do they mean like the anti-Semitism in Merchant of Venice and others?
I would imagine so. I mean, they didn't get specific.
Anonymous, let us know what you
would have been helpful.
Yes, fill us in, please. So, yeah.
I mean, we never did Shakespeare, but I imagine the administration would have had us edit some of it anyway. Drinking was about the only thing that they allowed. No sex, no drugs, no like
rock and roll.
Nothing risque.
Oh.
So like, it probably would have been edited. Nothing. No anti-Catholic jokes. One of the things that we edited that out of a musical once. I don't remember which one.
That makes sense. You don't want to talk crap about your producer, essentially, but no.
Yeah.
I have another one from Huggable Kaiju.
Hello again.
Hi. This is my SM side showing, stage manager side for those who don't know the acronyms. But what about coaching actors around their religious moral issues with the show they've signed on to? So
say that again?
The question reads, what about coaching actors around their own religious/moral issues with a show they've signed onto? So they've agreed to sign on to the show. Sorry?
So like they're an actor playing a character with a religious...
No, I think what she's asking is, you've got an actor, they signed on to do a show. Say they've signed on to do The Woodsman, right, and they're playing the role of the reformed pedophile. All of a sudden, you realize they have a religious compulsion against this character. What do you do? They've signed the contract, they've taken the role, but now you find out that they have an issue playing a pedophile when the role is about a pedophile.
Right, or it could be the nudity thing again. Or,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like for some reason, they're doing Equus, and they didn't realize they'd have to be nude on stage with a leather harness.
Or you signed on to do Chicago without reading the show, and you don't agree with murder.
Or infidelity, or all the...
Yeah, or whatever. Like.
So how do you work around that with the actor who has a religious compulsion against such a thing, or an issue addressing it?
I think communication is key, like 100% of the time. But I always think that's it's important to say, you as the actor, to say I'm not comfortable with this, because if your director or your stage manager or your producing team doesn't know that you have a compulsion against playing a pedophile or being nude on stage or whatever, they can't work with you to get over it or to change what needs to happen. It's possible that they might work with a costume designer and say, Julia is not comfortable being nude, and she didn't realize when she signed her contract that she'd have to be nude. How can we work with her to create the illusion of nudity without creating nudity? Or, Jared doesn't want to act as a pedophile. Maybe we fire Jared and find a new actor.
I think a lot of it comes down to on the production administrative side is being very clear about the role. Because we can't assume everybody has seen Equus or Jesus Christ Superstar or any of these other shows. We get into that trap a lot, and we assume that, well, how could you have not seen this show? Because I get that a lot of how people are like, how can you never seen the music video to this thing? I just haven't. So we can't assume that, and therefore it kind of is the burden of the production company or the stage manager and whatnot in this case to be clear of what the role entails. We see this with any role involving stage combat or any role involving a controlled substance, and maybe you need to take it further with a role that may convey, issues with pedophilia or infidelity or sex or nudity, because some people equate sex with nudity and vice versa. So I guess if that's been made clear, then yeah, the onus of ownership of the situation goes on to the actor, because they knew what they were signing on for. They signed the contract. But if it's not made clear, the onus goes on to the production company, and then you got to think of something.
I have nothing to add.
Yeah, I mean, my stage management experience was with children, so I usually didn't have to deal with nudity or infidelity or sex. We did kids shows. Like, you don't have to deal with that stuff. But we did occasionally have a parent or two who would say, "I can't believe you're putting my daughter in that," and then we'd have to discuss with the mom why a skirt ending below the knee is not really an issue.
But yeah, then you're getting into the point of legal guardianship, and as somebody who worked at a children's theater, that was my first TD gig. I was TD at a children's theater, and I encountered a lot of those stage moms where you look at them and go, "What? You have a problem with that?"
Like, maybe you should look into why you have a problem with that, as opposed to putting the onus on me.
Yeah, I've had a couple of stage mothers go, and stage fathers, and I go, "What? Your brain went there, man. I know a therapist who could help you out, because my brain did not go there, and I don't. Screw you for dragging me with you." But again, when you're dealing with children, again, there has to be some sort of heightened consciousness with that.
Well, there's always wiggle room.
Yeah.
Or at least there was in our theater to say, like, well, you don't feel comfortable with that costume? We have a pair of pants we can put her in. Like, it's fine.
I mean, and sometimes decisions like that are oftentimes outside of the description of the role. Like, say, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, when they talk about the Oompa Loompas, they don't really give you a costume type. So if the costume designer wants to go with tutus and the other stage mom's like, "I don't want to see my little girl in something that short," well, we're going to change them to slacks. No big deal.
Yeah.
So you only get a little bit with it. But a show like Chicago, for example.
Someone, Pneumatic Kittens, commented, "I haven't had this specifically as a moral issue, but I had an actor struggling with the anti-Asian speech in Act 1 of Rhinoceros. We worked through it, but it was slow going for a bit."
When I was in college, I did a show, and this is something I actually talk about on my blog, my personal blog. When I was in college, I grew up in a white supremacist family, and that was something for me to overcome, and I did. But then I also had to play a neo-Nazi, which was hard. But that is something I knew about, and while it was hard for me, I had to overcome that because A, I signed my name to the line of it, and B, I think that having, for example, speaking in character about hate speech and being that repulsed by it can actually give you a new perspective to it. So it could actually be very helpful. Anybody else? Wow, that's just
Kaiju, who's on our live chat over here.
Oh, we do.
That man says,
oh crap! Look at that. They're all sort of talking and stuff.
I know, it's great.
Oh, it's kind of interesting. They're talking in the live chat about cutting out an entire scene of Middletown because it involved a fakey Indian rain dance, which I could totally see in Arizona because of a large Native American population, and there's been a lot of battles over some really horrible depictions of Native American culture. So that I could see where it could be an issue.
how are we doing, guys? We are at 7:13 Pacific time.
Pacific. Okay, yes.
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock for me, but I'm fine.
I don't have any.
I'm tomorrow off because it's Canadian holiday.
What's
weird.
the holiday?
In Canada, it's Civic Day.
Civic Day.
They have holidays there that are weird.
Civic Day. I just.
Tony Rod was saying, like in hair, there's a lot of use of the N word, and a lot of people, understandably, were kind of they weren't the most comfortable with using it during the show. So is there any I know, would you like change that for a show, or would you keep it as the artist's integrity?
That's really a director's choice on that. I mean, with Hair is such a period-specific show that I'm of the weird mindset to leave it in because it speaks to the period.
Mm-hmm.
But Hair also has a lot of stuff going on, like a lot of criminal depiction of criminal acts, drug acts, nudity. There's a lot going on with Hair.
Yeah. Racism, sexism.
Huggable Kaiju just said in the live chat, I also wonder about directorial decisions that may take a show in a direction cast and crew does not anticipate. That's actually happened at my school when we did Midsummer's Night Dream. I wasn't working on this show, but a lot of my friends were, and director wanted to take it in a very like over the top, too much for college students, rapey way. What happened was they ended up going to the dean of the school, who basically shut her down. And I guess like that's kind of something that will happen more in education.
Well, in a professional setting, you can go to your producer and say, we don't feel comfortable with this. Or you can go to your union rep if you're in a union show. There's always recourse to get where you feel comfortable, and if you're not comfortable, you can leave the show. It's not always the best choice or the most attractive choice. Maybe it's the show that's paying your rent, and so you have to stick around. But so if it's really that big a deal to you, talk to your director or quit.
There's actually a lot of talk of that going on right now politically with directors or those in charge of the production decisions utilizing their leverage to force out other talent, other technicians and artists by making the show so uncomfortable that they feel they're forced to leave. So the union's really dealing heavily with that right now, especially in today's political climate and with what happened with Shakespeare in a Park in New York when they were doing a straight-up version, modern version of Julius Caesar. Caesar happened to be wearing a tie that was red, so everyone instantly thought it was against Trump, and the director took the ball and ran with it, and it created a lot of problems. But then again, that's what shop stewards are there for. That's what producers are there for, and that's what HR departments are there for. Because a lot larger production companies and universities have HR departments. They're there to listen to this. They're not there to be a problem. They're there to help you.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird because society-wise, we think HR is being part of the man of the administrative, red tape, but a lot of HR people, I can say this with my companies that I work with and with ASU, we have the most awesome HR department. I love those people. They're really nice. They listen. They really back everybody up. They keep everybody together. It's a happy family.
All right. Do you have any more questions?
What's up?
Any more questions?
I don't have anything right now.
Oh. I got excited.
Sorry. You were like, it was just like a little puppy, and he's like, I don't got any more cheese. I'm sorry.
Is there anything that we wanted to talk about that we didn't get to? A bunch of stuff you were excited to talk about.
No, I was just throwing those out as like sample questions. Anybody else? Oh. You adjusted my audio level.
Yeah, you cut out a little bit.
Oh.
She's been
What's it?
adjusting mine the whole time. It's fine.
Oh, okay. I just got a little pop-up that says.
Yes, I did, because I couldn't hear it all.
I couldn't hear me at all.
Or do we have stories?
No.
Do we have
I
have
have a
stories
game
you
knob
want
over
to
here.
tell?
Stories you want to tell?
Hmm.
Oh, man.
About religion and theater.
In theater.
Good to be reminded of options since I'm a baby SM. Aw. I love that term. Baby SM.
Baby. Oh, hey. I'm just now looking at the chat. Sorry.
I mean,
I have a lot of stories from working on worship music, like a lot of Christian rock festivals and stuff, which is always kind of interesting. I mean, for me anyway. But not really theater related, I guess.
personally, I'm getting hungry.
Ah,
I'll try
dinner time for you, bedtime for me.
I didn't eat.
Oh, I got a bag of potato chips.
I didn't just before
How about we
we went on. So
All right, last call for
How about
questions,
we go another-
maybe? Like,
Last call. Last call. Great, now I want to drink.
my
Yeah.
favorite thing about having Catholic friends is that it taught me that it was okay to drink, because as a Protestant, you are not allowed to drink very often. It's like really anti-alcohol in my house. And then like Catholics found out that Jesus's first miracle was turning water into wine, and they never looked back.
Like, this guy's on. I like it.
All right. Alcohol.
I think
Cool.
one of our most celebrated
No, that's cool.
authors, Chesterton, he talks about how drinking like beer is God's gift to man. So,
Exactly.
I just like I saw a comic of just a depiction of Jesus sitting at the big Last Supper table, looking at a bill and rubbing his temple, going, "Why did they order wine? Why?"
that's not comics, was it? I don't know.
I saw it as a comic strip like
Yeah.
a while ago.
Oh, there's a comic
I
strip
saw it as a-
artist called Tomix, but I'm not sure if that was his or someone else's. But
Oh yeah.
I
Phil
don't
and I
remember
are in the
where I
Catholic
saw
side of Tumblr.
yeah,
I mean, I saw it a long time ago in a comic. I couldn't
So
tell you
we
whose
see,
comic.
we see all the
Yeah.
comics.
I've seen that too. So
Yeah, no.
Phil and I are in the Catholic side of Tumblr, so we see all the comics and we see all the Catholic text posts and
It's like a secret
Well, the-
society on Tumblr.
It's Catholic blur.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
I got a couple of a cool name like Tech Blur. You know, it's got something got to roll off the tongue. You got to work on your branding. I mean,
they don't do hangouts. There's one guy who does a Twitch feed, but that's about it.
see, the hangouts are fun because you get to ask all those. I like the concept because I deal with a lot of students who are afraid to ask questions in class, and it bugs me because they don't want to look like an idiot.
Mhm.
And I love the idea of the hangouts because it allows people to ask questions of others, either with more experience, less experience, or other experience, without being outed as not knowing such a obvious thing. You know, because
That's
it's not
right.
always obvious.
Like, I
It's
went
only
into the-
obvious if you've learned it.
Right.
I mean,
Go ahead.
No.
Sorry. I went into this feeling like I didn't know as much as other people did. So yeah.
I was just like, oh God, all these Christians, and I'm just here, like, don't say anything bad, don't say anything wrong, don't say anything wrong, don't drink, don't do anything.
Don't say the F word.
Don't, God, that's hard for me. Oh, that's so hard. No, I'm serious, and that's
It is though.
okay. An insight to a Buddhist person's brain.
I mean, I said the
we
F
are-
word, so
Well, I've been trying very hard not to because I'm bad with it. But in Buddhism, we're taught the Four Noble Truths in the Eightfold Path. And the Eightfold Path is essentially how to conduct yourself, right speech, right action, right countenance, all that stuff. And not using vulgarity in massive amounts like people in the recording industry and the tech industry tend to do. It's considered to be not right speech. I have a problem with that. But you know, the F word is just such a good word.
Yeah, I was brought up to never swear or anything too. So it's like
I had
I unfortunately I've started picking a few things up, like started using it, but I try to limit myself too.
Again, I had military officers as parents, so I think I was swearing with far better skill than most adults at age 6, which was not good. Anybody else?
I work in a restaurant as my second job, and so I swear all the time because kitchens are just full of profanity.
Oh God! I mean, yeah. I mean, working backstage at a music festival.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I mean, if you've got a sensitive ego or disposition, and you work at a music festival, you will either become the biggest badass, scarier than a Marine, or be crying in your closet for 4 days. Because there's no kindness on a show when you're going that fast. Because you think that working a musical is fast. Try working a rock festival like Vans Warped Tour. You're just constantly on the go. And if you get in the way, words are going to be said. Not meant to be mean, just...
But mean.
You got a lot of stress that you need to release.
Yeah, I mean, and also, too, is, you know, if anyone's seen a comic by the name of George Carlin, he has a description of why the word fuck is such a good descriptor. It can be used as a verb, as a noun, as an adjective, and you can have a whole conversation with one word depending on its inflection. It's a hilarious bit, and I use it a lot at work.
I think that was an acting exercise I did once.
Oh, right on. It's very true.
There's that whole scene in King's Speech where he just battles off the whole, like, he just says it like, rattles it off. It's part of his speech therapy. So,
if you have a moral standing against profanity, maybe don't do a Mammoth show. Like, you know, do some research on your playwrights and figure out what you're getting into.
Just research on any show, seriously, because if you have no knowledge of the subject, like, oh, it'd be cool to work on this show. Really, take a look at the material first, even if you think you know what it is. Because I've had a lot of people be very surprised working on a show that they're just not even on a religious side. I have had a lot of technicians who get hired on to do a jazz show, and they think, oh wow, jazz, just like some old dude blowing into a saxophone, and they don't realize we're running 64 channels of full MIDI programming because this jazz artist uses synthesizers, and it's harder than any rock show they've ever done.
Right.
It's like, just research what you're doing.
Well, and I mean, if you have any triggers too, like triggers, snowflakes, whatever, I don't care. But like, I have some triggers, and I research TV shows, movies, music, and plays before I do them, so that I can be prepared if there's going to be something that's going to affect me. I know beforehand, so that I know either to close my eyes or not go.
It's not bad to admit to being religious or whatever. Is, you know, being aware of triggers does not make you a special little sensitive snowflake. I mean, I have that way with shows involving any kind of white supremacist or alt-right, you know, Nazi terminology. And I actually work on, there are a couple of bands in the Valley that are that way, and I actively avoid those shows because I'm not going to be in a happy place with it. And it's not because I'm weak or I'm special. It's because I don't want to go out there and punch a guy and endanger my career.
Right. And I don't want to endanger my marriage by, you know, getting into something that I shouldn't be touching. So.
Right. So, and I think that's one of the things that applies to anything, both religious or otherwise, is don't be afraid to not do shows that make you uncomfortable, period. Not because it just conflicts with religious belief. I'm not cool with it.
I'm doing something, I guess, not super abnormal for me. I'm working as I guess on Next to Normal this fall. I'm very openly bipolar. Yeah. And I was originally going to work props for it, but I'm actually costuming an octoroon with text at the same time. so I can't prop it, but and the woman who plays the Diana, and so I'm going to sit down and talk about my experiences and stuff, and it's a rough show, but I don't know, I think this is something that will help me a lot. About that stuff.
No, I mean that's really cool actually. So let me double check my Tumblr, make sure if I've got any more questions, because I saw I got a little notification. And it's not a question. Chrome doesn't.
Isn't the best venue? And a text guide would be better, but any advice on researching newer shows that may not have as much information out on the web?
Read the script if you can get it.
Read the script, maybe talk to the director.
Look at other work the director and or artist has done, because rarely will anything an artist does be so drastically out of the wheelhouse of what they've done before. I mean, there's always the exception to the rule. Like, there could be the David Bowies of the world who do something new every show, but most likely, like Eric Bogosian, if you look at like Suburbia, Talk Radio, they all follow a certain style and theme. So look at their previous work if you can't get a hold of the script. That helps.
One of our chat people says email the playwright or author, which I think if you have a personal relationship with them or if you have a professional relationship with them, that's a really good idea. I'm not sure if it's like your theater has gotten the rights to it, if you should email them. I don't know. I mean, I've never dealt with it, but it's just like if you don't actually know that person, they might be weirded out by getting an email from someone saying, "Hi, I'm doing your show and I want to make sure that it doesn't have anything offensive in it." Like, I don't know. I feel like most theaters don't choose shows without reading them.
You'd be surprised.
That's true.
I've been surprised. Like,
I've worked for some really good theaters that actually like know their shit. So
well, it's just like I was helping with a high school that I love working with. They chose Noises Off as a high school production. My first response was, really? This is not exactly an age-appropriate show.
Yeah. It's also hard.
The last one I saw actually involved the top not being on at all. You know? And there's lots of alcohol references. I mean, that's part of the joke. It's the whole joke for the second act.
Like chasing around a bottle.
Yeah. And you know, there were some things that they edited out that made other jokes not make sense because they took out the adult part. I mean, yeah, it's funny, but it involves a lot of pratfalls. But the pratfalls aren't the funny bit of the show.
That's right.
But they did a great job, and I cringed every time I watched those high school kids fall down the stairs. I'm like, but yeah, and then same goes also with working music festivals and stuff. Just be in mind of what you're going into and look at the content you're working with, because somebody who's, say, gone to, Full Sail or Conservatory and they get signed on to an EDM music festival, and they're from Boise, Idaho. Really look into the culture of the show or festival you're doing. Because if you do something like, you get involved with a company that's doing something at Burning Man and you've grown up in Salt Lake City, Utah as a Mormon, you're going to be in for a shock. So just really kind of just look at the culture, look online, look at the people who go to these things. That would kind of give you an idea of what you might be looking at. And if you're cool with that, right on. If not, that's kind of where you got to ask yourself.
I bet the people who went to Firefest would have been happy if they had done a little more research into the production company.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, that's a nightmare.
I can't. Yeah.
Oh, my God. I can't believe anybody fell for that. Part of me is a little, amused by that. But that's only because...
in the way that I shouldn't be amused by that.
Yeah, it's that kind of proletariat versus bourgeoisie kind of thing, Like, yeah, well, you spend that kind of money, you deserve to get it. But, at the same time, that's... Because a lot of other festivals have done that on smaller scales, and we should be calling them out for it. We shouldn't be, going... No,
So Huggable Kaiju makes the point, at this point in her career, or my career, I'm assuming your gender, I'm sorry. At this point in my career, I'm getting contacted for very new plays. 1 or 2 were still being written at the time I interviewed, so I do my due diligence, but sometimes it just isn't there. I had a play that I did that was in workshop when I was on crew for it. Jen knows it. It was called From the Pig Pile, The Requisite Gestures of Narrow Approach. And it was a very weird, very avant-garde, experimental sort of theater. And like, as you went through the show, it felt like you were in a dream. And it's a great show. I love Pig Pile. It was like my favorite show I've ever worked on. But I didn't know anything about it, and no one could really explain it to me because the show is supposed to feel like you're in a dream. But I was in a really good relationship with the producer and with the director and with a lot of the actors. And so it was like highly feminist, and it was super radical, and they talked about periods, and they talked about sex, and they talked about all this stuff that like little like new adult me was like, oh no, what is this? But I got over it because I was able to talk to people and say like, hey, I'm not comfortable with this, and I don't really know why I'm not comfortable with this. Can you explain why you chose to say this way, or why you wanted to make this point? And then we would have a discussion over a beer, which makes everything easier. And then now it's my favorite show that I've like ever worked on. And I did my due diligence, but I still didn't know a lot about the show because the show was literally being written as we were rehearsing it.
About 7-8 years ago. Has it really been that long? Maybe it has. Yeah. About 8 years ago, I did a show called Frogwoman, written by my wife is laughing in the other room as I speak. Written by an amazing playwright, Dr. Christopher Danowski. I acted in it because I was just coming out of remission from cancer, so I needed a show that I could work with. And I had I guess one of the larger roles in it, playing a villain. The story is about the cult of celebrity and plastic surgery culture as related to human amphibian hybrids.
Okay.
This day, I had about a third of the show in stage time on it. I couldn't tell you what the fuck that show was about, and I was in it. It was a wonderful show, and a lot of those people, in fact, the director ended up marrying me and my wife. I mean, that's how good we got to be with the cast and crew. Those wonderful people. I still don't know what the show was about. It was that out there, and there was a lot of, and that was actually a good example of a show. Going into it, I am a liberal, heteromasculine appearing male, and I tend to be a bit of an alpha male, so I had no problem with a lot of the show. There were a lot of people in there. This was one of their first out of university productions, and there was no dressing rooms because it was a small theater, so backstage was dressing rooms. There was zero modesty, there was zero filters. A lot of the workshops, it was a very organic, violent show. The theater didn't have AC in Phoenix in July.
Oh, God.
It had an evaporative cooler, which doesn't help when it's 116 degrees. I kid you not. But it was an amazing experience, but it was one of those where, again, the script was written, but it was still kind of out there. So there wasn't a lot to know, but if you went online and looked at the theater company, they have a history of doing these kinds of shows. So that could always be a good resource, is look at this kind of stuff that they've produced before. Even if there's no information on the playwright or no information on the script or any of that, look at what the company or the venue has done before. That will usually give you an idea of what they usually do. Because if any theater company's been around for more than 2 seasons, they have a type of show they do that they know brings in. That's not always going to be the truth. This could be the one show where they're branching out and it catches you by surprise. But usually that's a good way to find out. God, it feels like I'm talking forever.
I know, me too.
I feel like I'm such an attention whore.
Some of the
In the live chat.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Let's see here.
I've only been to a therapist once in my life, and it wasn't a good experience for me. But I really like these people are saying school counseling and psychiatrists help you work through things if you're uncomfortable. There are shows that had advisors available to talk about issues that are already in the show.
Wow.
I mean, that's awesome.
That's really
They didn't have anything like that when I was in college. You guys are lucky.
I didn't have the internet practically when I was in college. I still had a flip phone. I'm old, okay?
You're not that old.
All right, so do you think we're good here?
Yeah.
Got any more questions? Is that it?
Well, there was one little thing that I kind of popped into my head.
Okay.
It was like, you have you know how you have like the icons of your religion. How do you deal? How do you deal with like them being used like almost inappropriately, like they could be construed one way or the other, or totally inappropriately, or basically in a situation that it shouldn't be in versus it should be in. The like some person would or would not be wearing this or that. Like,
go to any tattoo parlor and you know my pain as a Buddhist.
Like in one of the last shows I did, one of the characters is supposed to be just a generic pastor, but they cast him. They designed the role as like a Catholic priest. Unfortunately, there was a Catholic priest, but he was wearing a bishop's mitre, and so I came in too late to as a electrician. I came in too late to have any say about that, but it was kind of me knowing that he wouldn't wear this. It was weird to see that. So,
well, I think it's good to bring it up and mention it, but at the same time, if the director doesn't want to listen to you, yeah, well, you don't have much.
Yeah.
But I think communicating it is really important. I deal with that a lot out of frustration because being Buddhist, nobody realizes that there's like 40 some odd different major sects of Buddhism, and Mahayana Buddhists and Theravada Buddhists are different than, say, the Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, which is more of a Japanese derivative from the Taoists, which are not even Buddhist. And you get a lot of people just kind of lump it together, and you get a lot with like Catholicism, even though that the Russian Catholics and Roman Catholics are
Orthodox and Roman is
Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, Roman Catholic, Latin, like.
Yeah.
The perfect example. I didn't quite know what the hell I was talking about there. I need to be corrected. Please.
Chaldean.
She's more Catholic things.
Yeah.
But I think if you just mention it and say, hey, dude, as a Catholic, you got the wrong stuff on the guy. You got to do this. And some directors go, oh, crap. Well, yeah, we can fix that. Or other ones like, shut up. I'm done with you. Can't do much other way. But let them know.
And I think sometimes about how people do it for shock value. Yeah. Like there's a modern artist who has a piece where it's a crucifix, but it's like he peed in a bottle and then put the crucifix in the bottle and then closed it, and now it's an art piece. It's like that seems not cool at all, but like it's art. So, but also, is it art? It's one of those things where it asks that question: what is art, and why do we do art, and where does religion and art mix together? And it's hard to say. It's hard to answer that because I think it's subjective. I think it's different for every person.
Well, from the Buddhist perspective,
I've seen one cross the line for me in terms of religion. They took. Sorry, I'm choking on the candy that I was eating. They took. This guy went. Hold on. This guy went and took communion, the Eucharist, Catholic, 50 times, and then he didn't swallow. He took it and he spelled out like these words in Italian on the ground. It was supposed to be pointing toward the church, and it was just abhorrent. Like I literally cried because that's something that's so high up. That's the one art piece that's gone way too far for me. But usually other things I'll be like, well, it's not my favorite thing, but that crossed the line.
And also too is, I mean, like the Buddhist perspective, you know, religion is art, depending on your perspective. And so if it's their intention to do the thing and you're offended by it, and if that's their intention to do it, then yeah, that was their art. They're being a dick by doing it. And you have, no, that's where if you want to disengage, by all means, please do. But at the same time, it's, yeah, I mean, like, for example, in a happier version, I've seen shows where they had this person wearing mandala beads and a Tibetan, the saffron Tibetan monk's robes. Yet they were, and it was a whole mishmash of different ones. But also, this character was supposed to be one of those Beverly Hills, just, you know, trend of the week type of, you know, kept housewives. So the intention was to make her look stupid and just like a drinker. So I see that, and yes, they're using all the religious iconography in the wrong way, but in a way, they're pointing out hypocrisy, which is something that is a big problem with Buddhism and image in the West. So I was kind of like, using stuff in a sacrilegious way to point out some action that is really sacrilegious kind of evens out. Interesting. So it just depends on the artist, I suppose.
I like that example.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they're doing stuff, using stuff sacrilegiously, but they're actually pointing out a problem with the perception of the religion to people who don't practice. Like, yeah, they're using this in a stupid way because...
Now, I will point out for my example, if they had been unconsecrated hosts, then I wouldn't have had a problem. Just FYI.
Right. I mean, again, that's where the artist clearly knew what they were doing. So, therefore, there's no doubt about what their intention was. You know, and that's one of those things like, is that no longer art? Like, well, to that guy, it's art because his art has one goal, to piss Catholics off. You don't have to agree with it, or you don't have to patronize it because you don't agree with the art. But it is still art. It's a really shitty kind of art to you. That's why, as much as it pains me to say, yeah. Anyway.
I think we're about wrapped up here. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I got no
I think
more.
so.
I got nothing.
I'm feeling good about our conversation so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was very nice. Thank you.
I need to go eat something that's not candy.
I have chips waiting for me. Yes,
My husband is
All right, guys. Well,
so I'm gonna go watch that. It's gonna be fun.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks for organizing.
Thank you, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Do a prop learning at one time. Liz, if you're watching, that needs to happen.
Problem next. I like it.
And now I know
Thank
which
you,
computer to
everyone.
use.
What?
So
Oh yes, thank you all.
What?
How many?
I think there are six still here. One of them is me. So bye, friend.
And thank you, Pneumatic Kittens, Hugable Kaiju,
Luciana
Little
Jellyfish. Yes, and Courtney Mallard. Shout out.
Fish and a mallard. Look at that. All right, thank you so much, guys.
All right.
Have a great night. I'm out.